Well, welcome to Voices of Women. I'm your host, Chris Stanis, and I'm also the founder of Women of Wisdom Foundation. We're having our 29th annual WOW conference this March 11th through the 14th. And for the very first time, it will be a virtual conference, which we're very excited about. Our theme is Celebrating Spirit of Women, United We Are One. So we have special guests this year of Terry Tempest Williams and Louisa Tisch. So we're very excited to have them. And I am doing interviews with all our other workshop presenters. And I'm very excited today to introduce you to Jan Kinney. Jan Kinney fell in love with tarot in the 1970s. After reading for herself and others for several years, she felt called to create a deck, the Tarot of Compassion. And it's based on the natural splendor of her native Pacific Northwest, a project that spanned over 15 years to create this deck. She is currently completing a companion book, Conversations with the Tarot of Compassion, and hopefully that'll be out soon too. Jan offers tarot readings as well as workshops on relating to the archetypes of tarot. She is an avid reader, artist, musician, and public speaker. She also holds a PhD in women's spirituality and religion. Jan is giving a workshop called Conversations with the Giver. It actually will be a tarot workshop, and that will be Saturday, March 13th. So welcome, Jan.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so tell us about a little bit about yourself, how you got interested in tarot. It's been many, many years that you have been involved in tarot.
Yeah, I think it was about 1973. And I was into science fiction then, and I read a novel by Samuel Delany, who was a pioneering African-American science fiction writer, experimental writer. And this was about a spaceship that was, super, super high technology, but also controlled and guided by tarot. And it was the first I'd ever heard of tarot, and I was intrigued. Oh my goodness, I was so intrigued. And I went out looking for the first tarot deck I could find, which of course was the Rider-Waite deck, which in those days was pretty much all you could find. There were a few others, but that was what everybody had. And I just took off. I fell in love. And, started reading and started trying to figure out how to do this mysterious thing that people would talk about, and gradually evolved into what I'm doing these days, which is largely intuitive work, where we use the reading or the layout of the cards so that both the reader and the querent, the person who has come to ask the question, can look at the cards, see what they see. It's a little like looking at clouds or looking at patterns of moving water, that kind of thing. It works a lot, I think, with the left brain, so that you begin, do I mean left brain or right brain? Right brain. The intuitive side, so that you begin getting in touch with what you think what you do not know that you know, but you do know it. Because we all have a well of much deeper wisdom than we know, that we usually tap into. And tarot is a focusing device to help you get in touch with that. And I still love it. And that's how I work with it.
Yeah, that's great. I want to start off with you sharing how you think your workshop contributes to our theme, Celebrating Spirit of Woman, United We Are One.
How do we express unity? We express unity, I think, by giving to each other. We express unity by recognizing both the giver and the gift. And acknowledging the giver and the gift. We will be working with a variety of decks. Some of them are, my deck includes multicultural women, women of all colors, women of all shapes and sizes, as a representation of the archetypes of tarot. Other decks are built around West African religion or native themes or overtly feminist themes. So I think that working with this vast variety of imagery to examine how we give and receive with each other, I think definitely contributes to the idea of unity.
Yes, and interestingly, so your workshop is centered around the Empress card, and it's about yeah, conversations with the giver. So let's talk about that. Why did you choose that for this conference? So many cards in every tarot deck, and yours is very different um, than the
Um,
traditional tarot.
it's not a traditional tarot. It's actually structured the same as a traditional tarot, but I've changed a lot of the names. I was having a lot of trouble with the concept of an empress in the 21st century, or even in the 20th century, which was when I created her. Um, that empress just does not seem relevant to so much of our lives, but that the archetype of the empress is the bountiful mother. And she is the energy of unconditional love, of the concept of abundance. Not that we're, praying for more stuff when we talk about abundance, but that we're recognizing the abundance that we already have. Um, she is the energy that makes birthday parties or quinceañeras or coming of age ceremonies, which acknowledge not so much your accomplishments, but your presence, the fact that you're there. You don't have to do anything to earn a birthday party or a quinceañera. You just are. And that kind of celebration is an acknowledgement of the love that you can experience from the universe if you open yourself to this giver energy. And that's why I chose that name. And you'll see if you look at the Empress card, and I can find her somewhere. I don't, of course, I've shuffled my cards and I have no idea where she is. But Mount Rainier is in the background of that card, and Mount Rainier was originally known as, I have heard some interpretations of her original name, Tahoma, as Mother of Waters, which means that water, which is of course the source of life, is continually flowing down from Mount Rainier. So that's part of the energy as well. And that was what I wanted to stress is gratitude and generosity with what we have.
Well, and it's perfect time for that, having gone through 2020, and it's we have to be um it's hard. It's been a hard year, but we also have to be grateful for what we have in our lives and the people in our lives. And things have slowed down, and we've had to change how we interact with people. So here we are in Zoom all the time. But new connections are being made, and it's quite fascinating. So yeah, I think it's perfect for the conference and for 2021. And maybe we should just go ahead. We want to pick a card. Today is Solstice, and we want to pick a card for December 21st, 2020.
One card?
Sure, I'm
Okay.
sure. And I'll have you interpret it. I can.
Oh, this is a nice one. This is, let me hold it up to my camera. This is the Four of Earth, which in most decks is the Four of Discs or the Four of Pentacles. And it is, of course, about the earth element. And what this is about is planting things that are going to grow. They're very small yet. There's a lot of work involved. Right now, it looks like just, a yard full of dirt. It's been in a protected space, which I think is very relevant to 2020, that we've all been in our protected spaces. So the fence is around it to protect it from deer and rabbits and people that would walk over it unintentionally. So there are four plants there, and she is obviously digging the holes to plant them. And again, I think that's really, really relevant as we come out of 2020 and begin planning for what our new future will be, which we all know we are not going back to what was normal. Normal just doesn't exist anymore. It's going to be a new normal. And I could even see this as the election. When the dust finally settles on the election, is that we are going to be able to start planting some new things and watching them grow. And they will be green, and we can hope for an emphasis on green energy and green living. So, the lovely thing about tarot is that you can talk for an hour or more about a single card, and I won't. But I think that that's really an interesting card to have for the beginning of this particular solar year. Um, is that we're planting now for what is going to grow, and we don't know if they're trees, if they're bushes, if they're berry bushes, if they're rutabagas. We don't know. We just know that we are planting and trusting that things will grow.
Yes, and I think what it brings is hope too. You put that energy into the earth. Like gardening is very healing. Putting your hands into the earth, into dirt, it's very healing. And we're all we're wanting hope. There's that hopefulness of turning that calendar over, January 1st, 2021, and a new president, lots of changes we know are going to be happening. The vaccine is coming, and yet still our life is going to be different. They're even saying, it won't go back to as we know it. And so, I think it's important to look on it with hope, for positive changes, and to take I suppose we could go into fear with this. There's this unknown, but fear, what I was taught when I was in a group transactional analysis group, I guess I don't know, forget what it's called, way back in the 70s. Fear is a very similar energy to excitement. And so whenever I kind of go into fear, I can turn that into excitement. And we can do that now too. Like it can be exciting to think about, what are we going to grow? What are we putting into this earth? What are we going to nurture? What energy are we going to put into it? How are we going to nurture this going forward?
The other thing, of course, as we sit here, more comes. And that's the virtue the virtue of tarot is you can stare at it for hours and keep talking forever. Is that the dirt that she's planting it in is compost, of course. This beautiful, dark, rich earth, which is made of the dead and discarded plants that were from before, and yet they're still giving life in a new way. And that's where I think part of the hope comes too, is that yes, we are grieving our losses, but we can also recognize that the losses can be the compost for whatever it is new that we're planting.
Right, and in that, it's not, you don't have to throw out everything. You can just say, oh, 2020, it's gone, get out of here. Well, no, there were lessons learned. There were all sorts of gifts with it. Don't throw it all away. Take a look at what is there. As you say, in the compost, as you're using your hands and planting those flowers or plants or whatever you're putting in that earth, what is in that compost that's worth saving? What is in the compost that's going to grow something new?
And I think even gratitude comes out of 2020 because I think it was sometime in June, it was when people started coming out to the beaches and parks without masks and in large social gatherings. And I went to a very wise person, very annoyed, because it was like, what is this all been worth? I've been quarantining for 4 months. I haven't gone out in public without a mask since March. What's the point? And she said, well, you're alive, aren't you? And there it was. If nothing else, I'm alive, and I get to be alive still. And that is no reflection on the vast numbers of people that aren't alive anymore. But the fact is that we are, and we can be grateful for that. New kinds of gratitude, new forms of gratitude.
Yes, and even finding that within the grief of having lost somebody.
Yes.
Finding the gratefulness of that person for having been in your life.
Yes.
you know, it's not an easy time for many people. What, 300,000 people have passed away. And think of all the people those people have touched, magnify that times 10, 100, you know, impacts a lot of people. And so here we're going into our holiday season, you know, it's holiday week and we have New Year's, and we can feel that collective grief. I think we've been feeling it since March. There has been definitely a grief in the atmosphere, and we feel it. And it's important to express it, to feel it, to be with it. And then what are the gifts that come from that?
Yeah. I'm finding myself very much in touch with my North European ancestors today, because the whole thing about Yule celebrations, Christmas celebrations, is about using up the last of the fresh food and fortifying yourself for the long winter ahead. And I think that there was probably a lot of grief there too, because they would anticipate probably not all of them making it through the winter. But they had this moment of joy because the light is returning, the light is coming back. And we have this wonderful conjunction today that we can't even see, but we know it's out there. And there is hope. There is hope for all of us, even in the middle of the darkness.
Yes, and that winter time that we're going into, even though the light's returning and it's going to get lighter, which is always a joy to have the days be a little longer every day. But it's a cocooning time. It's a time to be with yourself, to be within. You know, like now it's a rainy day in Seattle. It's kind of dark. It's a good day to be with yourself, to read, to think about. You know, part of the planning too is preparing for spring when you actually do plant. So now, in your mind and your meditations, you can be working towards, you know, what is, you know, it's like a New Year's thing. What is the important things in your life that you want to manifest, that you want to grow, that you want to put in your garden? You know, when the soil it warms up in March, April, what, you know, you don't start that in March, April. It actually is coming about in the winter. It's I can't think of the word I want to say, but it's you may not even be conscious of it. It could just be in the back of your head and back of your mind, but then in dreams, or, you know, paying attention to the signs that you get during this time.
Thank you. And I did want to go back and clean up something that I said about light is returning and the darkness is ending, because I heard a wonderful, wonderful sermon fairly recently about the beauty of darkness and the virtue of darkness, and darkness as a womb, darkness as a place to sleep and dream and create and nurture. And again, the dark, I'm going to hold up the card again, because the dark soil that she is planting in is the darkness we're in at the moment. So, you know, I think we're looking at light and dark. We are learning, I will say we Northern Europeans are learning to look at light and dark in a different way. Because we've always emphasized the light, and we need to recognize the beauty of darkness as well. And you put it so well, you know, about the time when you start dreaming and planning about what you're going to be doing with your new year.
Yeah, it's very powerful time. And especially now this year, I think we're all feeling that, of what is going to come out of this, out of this darkness that we feel has been so dark, even though it's not, isn't a negative thing, but out of this time, what is going to come forward in the light? What are we bringing? What's our intentions to bring forward? You know, it's important to put your intentions, and tarot works really well with that, like drawing a card to, you know, it's really your unconscious mind that's, you know, picking that card, the intuition, it's picking that card and it's saying something to you and to look at. So any tarot deck or any kind of divination deck is really good that way to see what's coming forward, what you are calling forward, because it's always amazing of what you draw, and it's always so perfect, whether someone's drawing it for you or you're drawing it for yourself. It's amazing. It's always a perfect message that you need to hear in that moment.
Yeah.
So we'll do something fun, because I have your deck too.
Okay.
I think I'll draw a card,
All right.
you can do a reading on me. So this may
Oh,
be something that you'll be doing in the workshop. So
uh-huh.
we'll see. Okay, when we talked about water, so it's number 1,
Ooh,
water.
okay. What was your question? Do you have a question, or are
I
you
didn't
just
think about a question.
well,
We'll just talk about what's my 2021 going to, calling for me.
oh, this is again, it's
Is
about the
that a
element.
pearl and an oyster? I'm
Yes,
not
it
looking
is.
I'm
Yes,
looking in
it
the
is.
screen. So,
Yes, it is a pearl and an oyster.
oh, perfect.
And what I think about the ones is that this is a chance for a new start. It's a chance for a new beginning.
Mm.
And water is about emotions. It's about feelings. It's also about finding your place in unity. Hello, there's that word. Finding your place in unity, because the metaphor of water is millions and millions of droplets of rain, which are falling outside my window right now, merging to become one ocean. And ultimately, that is what we all are. We are drops in the ocean of life, of humanity, of existence. And so what this is about is you having a new opportunity to get in touch with your sense of being one with the universe, or your sense of being one with the rest of humanity, or one with the rest of nature. It's on a multitude of levels. You may find new friends. You may find new emotional attachments. You the lovely thing about a pearl as a metaphor is, it's classic that there was an irritation. There was a piece of sand that irritated. And so the oyster's body creates this incredibly beautiful, beautiful thing to protect itself from the irritation, to protect itself from this thing that was causing it pain. And so what this is offering you, I think, a chance to create something very, very beautiful out of something that has been painful. Okay. Does this
Yeah.
resonate?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I love it.
Okay.
It's a great card.
Anything you want to say about the image?
Well, it's interesting because I'm assuming this is my hand. I'm holding the oyster, but it's a hand putting the oyster. It's almost like putting it into it versus it's pulling, usually you think of, you take the pearl out of the oyster. But to
Isn't
me, it
that
looks like she's putting it back into this,
that too?
and it's lit up. It's full of light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bringing the light to me, bringing this beauty, this pearl, this knowledge, this oneness, all the things that you talked about, putting it into the light. And it's almost like a container, this shell of the oyster is a container to let it grow.
I like that. And the oyster shell also is a protection, which says that, as you nurture this beautiful part of yourself, you also need to create some boundaries around it. So as not to preserve it, to take care of it. And the good thing about having a container for this beautiful pearl is that you'll always know where to find it too.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
part of a tarot reading is throwing things out and saying, does this resonate for you? Does this work for you? If there's anything about being able to find it when you need it may resonate, or, making sure that you're not, okay, what just jumped for me was casting pearls before swine.
Yeah, that is a saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a saying. There is a
Yeah.
saying. And so making sure that you are holding on to that pearl. Um, yeah, and here's the paradox of generosity. You want to be able to give away, you want to be able to relate, you want to be able to bond, and yet you have to also maintain your own individuality, maintain your own sense of who you are, and not get caught up in mass movements, for instance,
Mm,
or caught up in somebody else's agenda that doesn't really work for you. And
right.
that's
And I just
different.
happened to think, I was just thinking like probably an oyster, no two oyster pearls are the same.
Right.
So that's that uniqueness, that individual, I'm unique in the world. Everybody, anybody who picked this card up will see, that pearl is unique. And to protect that, that's that also that, keeping that in its container, me, the container, I am unique. And this is a good reading for everybody for this year too.
Yeah.
I'm picking this for everybody at Women of Wisdom. If they're coming to the conference, knowing their uniqueness, knowing their gifts, they're coming there to, well, maybe to explore how to shine their light in the world.
Exactly. Hmm. Hmm. And also to become part of the bigger light.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that collective, like we do create community, and it's a time to be together. It may not feel it online. What's that going to be like? No, there's going to be all sorts of opportunities for people to be together within a workshop. And every workshop will have small breakout rooms where you can connect with one or two or three, four other people to do exercises. Also, in between workshops, there's a community board where people can connect with somebody that you met, or you can just go on the community board and see who's registered. This will happen before the conference, probably open up in January, where people can go to our platform and they can see who's registered and go, oh my goodness, Jan Kinney is going to be there. I want to, and you can connect.
Oh,
Someone
that's
can connect
lovely.
with you on
Yeah.
in the platform,
Mhm.
and or meet new people. Hey, that person looks interesting. I want to send her a message. So within
Lovely.
that structure, we'll be able to make connections and build the community that way.
Mhm. The other thing that I really actually like about Zoom, and I'm a church lady, and of course, we have been on Zoom since March. And as we think about maybe someday we're going to move back into our building, we talk about what what blessing have we gotten from Zoom, and how can we take that blessing into our older environment. And one of the things I love about Zoom is that you can see everybody's face.
Right.
And I could see somebody who was reacting emotionally to something that was being said, or um, to the sight of the Christmas tree. I mean, we put up a photograph of the Christmas tree that we usually have every year, and somebody just fell apart. And you can write a private message like, do you need some help, or what's going on,
Mhm.
or just to be able to see each other's faces, which we don't usually in a large gathering, especially when there's a person talking and everybody else is looking at that person.
Right.
Here we can all look at each other.
Yeah, it's really fun. I have a couple communities that I'm doing that with, and one of the community is people in Canada and the US, and I don't see in person a lot of times the people from Canada. And
Right.
to see them on the screen, and you see 20, 25 at a time, and then go to other pages. It's just exciting to see them. We're more connected now, I think, than we were before.
I think so. Yeah,
But so how do we keep that? So that'll be our challenge this year.
exactly.
So, what would you love our listeners to walk away with from this interview today?
Uh, I think, first of all, just on one level, a little better understanding, if they are unfamiliar with tarot, about what it is and how it works and what it can do for you. And it's a very good meditation tool, as you and I have been, you know, meditating with each other on those cards that we looked at. Um, the other thing is, yeah, finding finding gratitude in where we are, being able to
Mhm.
live with gratitude where we are in this moment that we're in, on the darkest day of the year in quarantine. Um, where's the blessing? Yeah. And always, 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 I think to be conscious of look for the blessing. I have this thing up on my wall and I'm reading it right now. It's a picture of Fred Rogers. And it's that wonderful thing he said, you know, when he saw scary things in the news, and his mother would say to him, look for the helpers. And I'm reading here, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. And in times like this, I think we can say, look for the blessing, because you will always find a blessing somewhere.
Right. Especially this season. And I'm sure a lot of people are feeling very alone and isolated. Some people and holidays, they're alone because they're, we're kind of self quarantining ourselves, and alone. If you aren't with a partner, you're by yourself on a holiday, and that can be a very hard time. And so, yeah, even just reach out and set up some Zoom calls with some friends so that you're not alone. What can you do to find a blessing at this time? Create a celebration for yourself on these holiday days. Just instead of looking at the, find the blessing. It's a great message. Find the opportunities to give a blessing to somebody else.
Yes.
It's that giving that is important and makes people feel, you'll feel better too in giving, and somebody's receiving your gifts when you're doing that. So, that's a possibility for this holiday time where people can really look inside themselves as to, where can I give in this new way that we're giving?
That's exactly, the gratitude is the mirror image of generosity, and vice versa. So yeah, both I like what you said, both finding the blessing and being able to give the blessing in some
And
way.
receive them when somebody sends you a blessing.
That too. That too. Yes.
Well, thank you for being on the show today, Jan. It was great to talk with you.
Thank you. This has been such a pleasure. This has
Yes,
been
well, I'm sure there's a lot of tarot lovers out there, so I'm sure a lot of people will come to your workshop. You can visit Jan's website at tarotofcompassion.com, and also check out all the events at Women of Wisdom, and you can find where Jan is giving her workshop, womenofwisdom.org. And you can attend just one day. We have tickets for Friday or Saturday or Sunday. But the best gift for yourself, and you may want to consider this for giving yourself a gift for the holidays or for your new year, is gift yourself or a friend with a weekend pass and really immerse yourself in the gifts that are there for being with other women. So everybody have a great holiday, have a good new year, and we look forward to seeing you in March.